I have come to really understand my gifts in the world. And one of my gifts is the ability to help people really deeply connect with their heart and expand the capacity in and around their heart to take down the walls, the things that are like holding them back from not only being able to give love, but also receive love. And love is more than just like, an intimate partnership. I love you per se, right? Love expands in so many aspects of your life. It's the way that you treat yourself, it's the way that you connect with the community, the friends around you. It's the way that you connect with your business. It's the way that you step into leading in the world in a way that influences the people around you, whether you're a mother, whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, whether you are working in a corporate space, like whether you're just a friend. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. When you can connect more deeply and expand into love, you get to bring beautiful experiences into your life and just have and feel more abundance. And the intention through what I do is to help people learn to put all of these tools in their toolbox so that they can better navigate the experience of life. Because let's face it, like being a human being is super challenging sometimes, right? There's like ups and there's downs. Sometimes you fall on
100%.
ice. Like, you know what I mean? Like things happen. And what I see is that people are really lacking the knowledge and the information to better support themselves. And, you think about your early childhood education. Like, we're not learning self-regulation tools. Most people aren't. We're not learning mindfulness. We're not learning breathing techniques. We're not learning how to communicate in a nonviolent way. We're not learning how to foster community. Like, all these things are super important for the vigor, the vitality that you see in me, that I have been able to foster over the last 10 years of my life by really diving deep into my physical pain, my mental pain, my emotional pain, and learning, okay, this sucks. I don't like how this feels. How do I change it? And so that's a lot of what I do in the world, and really leaning into fostering my sisters right now and creating spaces for women to come together and to heal in community. Co-ed spaces are things that exist in my life as well, but just feeling this really deep draw to sisterhood right now, and to foster that. And I think it's really important for men to have their brotherhoods and for sisters to have their sisterhoods, because it's where we heal. Like, deep community is where we get to heal, where we get to grow, where we get to have these reflections of ourselves, and where we get to expand into this like epic experience of being human.
So it's not just the mental you're talking about, you're still talking about the physical.
All of it. All of it's super important.
And I want to ask you, because I can't imagine you had this mindset all your life. I imagine you went through some difficulty, because you talk about the mental health, you talk about physical pain, you talk about all these things. You talk about it as if you're coming in from experience. You've experienced a hardship, which probably sucked, which is why it's called a hardship. But it seems to me like, looking at you right now, you overcame it. So before I want to talk about the tools of how you overcame such things, I want to ask you, what was that hardship?
Mm. There's been a lot of different hardships in my life, and I know one of them you and I have related on deeply
Mhm.
already, and I'm happy to share a little bit more about that. But growing up, I found myself in a really emotionally unsupportive household, and it wasn't my parents' fault. They had and were using the tools at their disposal that they had at that point in time, right? Like, they were doing the best that they could. I always had food. I always had a roof over my head. I really could do whatever I wanted as a child, but I didn't have a lot of emotional support. And I ended up experiencing that through stress, through anxiety, through like emotional dysregulation. I always felt this like sensation of like being out of control inside my body, and I hated it. Years later, I started developing some chronic symptoms, and I would complain and complain and complain. I saw all these doctors, and no one discovered that I had a pancreatic tumor growing that ended up being the size of an orange before
Oh,
it started hemorrhaging. And as one of the things that you and I related on was this internal bleeding, which is not an experience I wish on anybody. And I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like I hope.
there's a few I would wish it on. I'm not gonna lie, but not on good people.
Yeah, it's not something for me personally that I would want anybody to experience.
Mm.
It sucks, right?
Yeah.
Um, But I ended up having major abdominal surgery, and no one really like informed me and educated me about like what was happening. And I was 16 at the time. No one helped me understand how this was going to go and what I could expect on the other side of the major abdominal surgery. Like, your pancreas is in the back of your body. And so when they opened me up, they had to make like a 6-inch incision on my stomach, and they ended up having to push all my organs to the side to get to the tumor to not disrupt the encapsulated tumor that was there.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it was pretty intense. And I didn't realize that until I got into college and I was like learning pre-med. And I was like, whoa, like that was a serious thing that I went through. And so the following years, I started developing some really severe mental health challenges, mental health symptoms, chronic health symptoms, like GI issues, and eventually chronic pain. And I got to a point where I was going through college, and this is like the rise of Instagram. And I started seeing all of these like beautiful women on Instagram, like with these super toned and fit bodies. And I was like, oh, that's it. Like, that's going to give me happiness. Right. And I'm sure and someone who's listening can probably relate to this. You might be able to relate to it yourself. It's like, like,
I don't know if I ever saw beautiful women and said that's for me.
okay, but guys, like, I'm sure maybe you saw like some
Yeah,
dudes
yeah.
and you're like,
Like, there's definitely
that,
those influencers out there like
yeah.
Noel and God rest his soul, Joe Static.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can completely understand. But in my time, I'm not sure. I think you're younger than me.
How old are
In
you?
my I'm 29.
Okay, I'm 30, so I'm actually 1 year older than you.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You look way younger.
I'm definitely not.
Okay, well,
I don't want to
do you
relive my
remember
20s either. I'm good on that.
do you remember in high school, I don't know if it was an American thing, but in the Middle East when I had high school, we used to follow this guy called Ziz.
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh well, he's dead now. But cuz substance abuse. But basically that was cuz I feel like there was a period 2010, 2011 where everyone was all about the 8-pack or 6
Yeah.
pack. Like
Yeah.
specifically that. No, not legs, not arms, just the 8-pack.
Yeah.
And it was because of this Australian influencer called Ziz, like right before the Instagram era, and people were obsessed with that. So I get what you're saying. For me, like when I see these influencers, these male influencers, I definitely want to be as fit as they are.
Yeah, and there's like this sense of like, if I have that, then I'll have or be blank, right? Whether it's happiness, or whether it's you get the girl, or whether it's you get the job, like whatever that is, it's like, if I look like that and if I'm like that, then I'm going to be this. And that, in my opinion, like those influencers play a big role in that, like you said, right? So I saw all this stuff and I was like,
Sorry, Leah, could I just ask you to come closer to the mic?
here I am.
Perfect.
So I
I
saw
will
all
write
those
it,
all
write
those
that out.
things on social media, and I thought that that was going to bring me happiness. And I was going through a really tough time in college, between friendships, between relationships, being, transferred between so many schools. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is how I'm going to find happiness and connects my mind and my body. And I thought that that 6-pack, 8-pack was was the epitome of health. And I ended up doing a bodybuilding show and I competed, and I got to that point where I had like 10% body fat, maybe less. I was like really, really lean, unhealthily lean. And I took a step back and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually incredibly unhappy. This didn't connect my mind and my body. This did the opposite. This didn't help my mental health. This made it worse. I found myself standing at the edge of a building, ready to commit suicide and jump off the building. And
Oh,
I had to like hit the stop button and be like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this is not how it has to be. This is not what I want for my life. I want to be here, but I don't want to be here in the version of myself that I have been. And so it was this huge wake up call for me to start to look at myself and figure out like, what can I do to start reducing my physical pain, my mental and emotional pain, to figure out how to feel more in control over how to support myself. And that's really when I ended up like diving into the world of functional movement, of personal development, of spirituality, and started really coming to understand the mind body connection and how all of these things actually play a role in the experience, which is you. And that was a big part of how I ended up here And now I get to take all that medicine and all the experiences that I've had over the years and offer it to others in a way that supports them by being a mirror so that they can look deeper at themselves and learn how to do the same thing for themselves.